how do I qualify for Section 8? The answer is you don't. You don't qualify for Section 8. People just assume that, okay, now they have to make some sort of application so they can accept Section 8 landlords. You don't. The tenants are qualified for Section 8, not the landlord. If I have to say this, I'll say this with 99% confidence that 100% of the properties in America are already qualified for Section 8. What that means is the property does not need qualification for the program, the tenant does. All you have to do is be ready to accept the tenant and the risks and rewards that come with it. But when you accept the tenant, now you have to go through this whole nine to qualify your property in order to receive the rent. And what I mean by qualify is really you just have to go through the process of the application, setting the correct amount of rent, and then inspection of the property. So those are really the three steps. You list your property on a website called affordablehousing.com. And that is the only website in the nation you need to use. And the website also has a way to list it for free if you're someone who is not able to buy the premium account or whatever. So affordablehousing.com is the only website that is associated directly with the Section 8 authority, or rather HUD stands for Housing and Urban Development, which is a department of government that controls and monitors Section 8 program. After you list it, you're going to get 2 or 3 things on that website. If you have a premium account, you're going to get something called rent estimator. So when you have the rent estimator, you can actually plug in the address for the property you have, and it will tell you what the going rent is for Section 8 in that area. Once you go on that website will tell you maybe you need to list this property for $2,500, not $2,300, because some areas actually pay more than market value. For example, in Houston, we have a small city called Spring, Texas. In that area, Section 8 pays almost 30% over market. It's very popular for Section 8.
Welcome to another episode of Affordable Housing and Real Estate Investing. Today, I have Chai Phansalkar, and I know Chai as one of the leaders in the creative finance community called Sub2. I've seen him underwrite deals every single week with his team, helping new investors get into the game every single day. But I never knew Chai had such an in-depth portfolio about affordable housing. And when I found this out, I was like, all right, let me get this famous dude onto the podcast so that he can share his wisdom with everybody in the audience today and our community. So, Chai, welcome to the show, man. How you doing today?
Thank you so much, man. It's been a long time. We saw each other. I hope to see you at Squad Up.
Yeah, man. It's been like a year since I've seen you. And I'm sure a lot of things have happened. But man, I see you doing these Zooms on a weekly basis and helping so many people. And I have so much admiration for the consistency that you guys are demonstrating and the persistency you guys are, and the patience, honestly, that you guys show by helping other people in this space. It's not hard.
You know, the funny thing about consistency for me is I consider myself the least consistent person. In fact, that is the one thing in business I fear the most, that I will start something and not be consistent. And maybe that fear helps me grow as a better businessman. I mean, every businessman has some sort of paranoia. And that's my paranoia, that I will not be consistent. So I have to build my own support structure around my paranoia. And that's my partners, really. They do a phenomenal job. When I'm not there, they are there. So together we show a consistent front. And that's all that is for me.
And that is so cool. That is such a great way to hold yourself accountable, but also rely on others that can help you bridge the gap of any of the weaknesses. I know you as one of the leaders of Sub2, but tell us a little bit about your story, man. How did you even get into real estate to begin with?
Well, it's a long story, but a shorter version of that, or rather, if I have to give someone like an elevator pitch, I would say I was not really looking for real estate. I was definitely looking to become an entrepreneur. I had this bug in me for ages. I mean, I remember going all the way back to 9th grade. When I was in 9th grade, I had joined this local community that was basically fostering up and coming entrepreneurs. And me and my very close friend, we are still in business together. That's a story for another day. But my friend and I, we used to visit this community, and where I grew up back in India, it's not really a business community I grew up in. There are small business communities that are around town that we were looking for. And that's how we heard about this meeting. And we started going there. And that's where we learned the power and rather we learned to take pride in this desire we have. Because as a kid, you have this desire, oh, you want to be an entrepreneur. Then your parents, the society, everybody's going to try and ground you in that grounding mechanism. They actually pull you back. So you kind of start thinking, am I too greedy to think that I want to make money? That's the reason why I always thank this community that I joined, which is what taught me how to take pride in having this desire. It's completely normal to build an empire, or completely normal to want to build an empire or do something unconventional, so to say. So that's the start of my entrepreneur journey. And then fast forward to maybe 2015 is when I had gone through few businesses and few attempts to do few things in life completely unrelated to real estate. And some things did go well, some did not. They were not really scalable. So I pulled out of those things and looking for something new. And that's when real estate sort of came along as one of the options. And by that time, I had already worked in the industry for a few years. I had saved up some money. So I was like, you know what, while I'm thinking of starting a new business, why don't I use my money and make some money off of it? What's the best way to do it? Of course, one of them is doing like buying stocks, and second is investing in real estate. And stocks, I have a really bad track record. I was like, stocks is not for me. I want to go into real estate. So I was very naive looking for these deals on MLS, and I was running my calculations, and I'm like, okay, if I buy this property, my monthly mortgage payment is going to be $1,700, and I'm going to get a rent of about $1,650, which is amazing. Like I only have to put $50 a month out of my pocket, and then 30 years later, I own this house free and clear. Just that thought alone was super exciting to me. Without knowing all this wholesaling and creative finance and all these other, I was already excited about that. And I'm so glad I was going to buy this property. And I met someone who told me, hey, you need to go learn real estate, like how to invest in real estate. I was like, isn't this how you invest? She's like, not even close. You need to go see this guy in this place in Houston. And I was like, okay, let me give it a shot. And then I found out about discounted properties, wholesaling. And I was like, oh my God, is this even real? So that's how I started. And then one thing led to another. And here I am.
Wow. Well, tell us about the first property that you bought then. Tell us about the first deal you did as an investor.
So I'm going to tell you about the first wholesale deal I did. And the background of that is I started doing this. I went to this seminar. I learned how to buy discounted properties. And then I joined this mentorship. And the mentorship in Houston, it's called Lifestyles Unlimited. Okay, so they actually focus on teaching people how to buy multifamily properties. So I joined that mentorship, and I wanted to become a syndicator, like a general partner, raising money and doing apartment deals. But because of my visa status at that time, I couldn't go there. So I was like, okay, why don't I just start buying some single family? So I bought this first deal. And when I went to closing table, I saw this wholesaler making $10,000 of assignment fee. And I was asking this escrow officer, hey, what is this assignment fee? And she's like, who did you buy this from? I'm like, oh, this guy. Oh, you know, he doesn't own this house, right? I'm like, really? So how is he selling it? So she's like, no, he went to the seller and got a contract, and he's selling the contract to you for $10,000. I'm like, is this real? Is this even legal? So she's like, yeah, it's perfectly fine. This happens every day. So I closed that deal and went back to that wholesaler. I'm like, hey, dude, you didn't tell me what you were doing. And he's like, I thought you knew. Everybody knows. How do you even get hold of these discounted deals? I was like, yeah, that actually makes sense. How do you get hold of these discounted deals? And then he started explaining, hey, look, we have these websites that send out mailers to these homeowners that are in distress and whatnot. I was like, oh, okay. So I went home, downloaded 300 contacts. Okay. 300 addresses from this website called ListSource. It feels like I'm talking about something that happened 50 years ago. ListSource is something nobody talks about anymore. But ListSource was the website where I downloaded all these addresses from. And then Go Big Yellow Letters, I think that's the name of the website. That's where I uploaded these 300 addresses. It was like 84 cents a letter I paid. And I was like, okay, well, whatever. Let's see how that goes. So it was like $300 all in. I was like, okay, I can take that much risk. And I told this story on another podcast. So the fun fact about $300, the reason for my budget is I used to play a lot of poker back then. And I actually thought to myself that I could become a poker player. And which I was terrible at it. Okay. I still am. But it used to be my budget, like $300 I would spend on a poker game. If I win, great. If I don't, I'm going to cap myself at $300. That was my thought process. So I was like, okay, why don't I just skip the game this one time and use this money to buy real estate or spend on real estate? So I was like, whatever, $300, right? So I did that. I got like 10 phone calls, 3 or 4 appointments, and one deal actually closed. And that deal did not, I didn't wholesale it because I never wanted to become a wholesaler. I just wanted to buy my own properties. And when I found out about this discounted purchases, as a good Asian, I like discounts, right? So I was like, I'm not going to buy anything retail anymore. I have to buy discounted properties. So I kept that property to myself and I sold it maybe 2 years later. After my rental income and everything, I ended up clearing around $90,000 on that house. So $300 to $90,000, I was blown away. So I called Prakash, my business partner. Now I called him and told him, hey, we cannot tell anyone about this. Okay. This is going to be the best thing I've ever found in my life. So we got to keep doing this. So first 2-3 years, I knew as soon as I bought that deal, I knew I was going to make really good money on it. I still held on to it. But in spite of knowing that, I went from 300 letters to 500 letters when I should have gone to 50,000 letters or at least 5,000 letters. And it took me 3 years to build that courage. In 2018, finally, I started wholesaling on a larger scale. And I had built up a good portfolio. I had done some flips in the meantime, but it was unbelievable. In today's world, we have Facebook groups. We have these online mentorships. There is so much help out there, podcasts. You name it. There is at least 1,000 times more videos on YouTube compared to what it was in 2015. I don't know if I had all this information back then, if I had done or taken action sooner, but that is the only regret I have. So the deal was amazing and it put me on the map and it put me on the right track. But I feel like I should have taken action a lot sooner. And that's my message to everybody. Everyone I talk to, take action today. Yesterday. You should take action yesterday, literally.
Man, I'm so on the same page with you on that one, man,
Yeah.
Because I kind of tell people you just got to take one step and usually the next step reviews itself no matter how foggy it is. And from that point on, once you start learning about, I tell people all the time, like I was going to call this podcast, How to Quit Your 9 to 5. Yeah. And I realized how passionate I was talking about affordable housing because of my family story. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is it. But I would have never gotten to this point had I never taken the first step. And I think that's a testament to you and your belief in yourself because, hey, instead of playing poker that night, you turn that $300 into $90,000. How cool is that, man?
Yeah.
And well, hey, Chai, you mentioned you have a business partner, and this is a great lead in for the next question because we always get all these questions from people like, hey, how do you structure partnerships? How do you split up things? How do you split responsibilities? How do you split up profits? What is your business today and how did you guys form that partnership and what were the roles and responsibilities?
Honestly, partnerships is a very complicated topic. I'm just knock on the wood. I've been the most fortunate person, I have to say this, that I have found a very good partner. I have zero complaints. When I say zero complaints, it's compared to my standard of complaints. So nobody ever has zero complaints. Okay. So there is no such thing as perfect property or perfect husband or perfect wife. There is always something that's going to bother you along the way. But as you age, as you grow in life, in business, you have this wisdom that starts telling you what is really important to you in life. Early on, when you're starting out, when I first met Prakash, the only thing I really sensed and I was excited about is that we share the same passion. That's all that was. I didn't know how wise he is compared to me. Okay. It's all always going to be compared to you. I mean, I might be the wisest person you know, but you probably aren't there yet to deserve my partnership. You know what I mean? Or vice versa. Like we just happen to be at the same place at the same time in our life. So sharing the same passion too. So that is what makes the partnership successful. You cannot just go into a partnership and expect results without doing anything. I mean, you have to put the same amount of effort into that partnership. I mean, since then, I have been able to do partnerships that I have with really larger businessmen, but those partnerships work very different and their requirements are different. So to put it in a like simple actionable steps, I would say if you are looking for a partner, I would first make sure you interview them, like kind of date them for a little bit. I mean, it's probably exactly the same way as it operates with finding your life partner. So business partner is no different than a life partner. Sometimes I spend more time with Prakash than my wife, honestly. So you need to be able to hang out with them because you're going to spend crazy amounts of time with your partner. And if you're not spending a lot of time with your partner, I don't think you're ever going to come to a place where you understand each other. Again, everybody has a different idea of partnership. I have seen partners that only communicate via email and things work out just fine. But they have defined partnership very differently. Okay. In our case, we don't have a lot of definition of our partnership is because when we started, we didn't know who was going to take what roles and we didn't even know what skill sets we have. And we kind of grew into this partnership, both of us together. So in my case, the partnership worked very differently. And I have had many other partnerships since then. And I have been able to evaluate every partnership based on passion first and then wisdom second. So how much passion does this guy have about this thing? Because I get this partnership offers every day. Like a lot of people that I know, my very good friends that are currently maybe in a W-2 or doing something else in life, they're like, oh, I want to invest in real estate. Why don't I give you some money and I'll be your partner? I'm like, sure, but we are not going to be an equal partner, just so you understand that. And when I say that, people back off because they thought money is the only way I can buy this partnership. I mean, sure, you can maybe buy someone else's partnership, but not mine, because I'm at a place where money is not in my way of growing anymore. Maybe if someone came along 10 years ago, I may have accepted that thing, but I think anybody who does partnership just for money is not going to be a long-term partnership. I mean, I hope you're referring to a long-term partnership.
Yes, I absolutely am. And I love how you have your criteria of passion and wisdom. What I typically do with my partners is I have a philosophical alignment conversation, is what I call it. And for me, I care a lot about reputational risk, which means that we're always going to do things right. When in doubt, we're always going to spend a little bit more money to make the place nicer, to take care of folks and provide them with a dignity in the home that they're living. And then on top of that, I also prioritize, make sure that my partner isn't just out for money. I honestly tell all my investors and my partners, hey, if you want to maximize your returns, I'm probably not your guy because I'm going to do all those things we just talked about. Yeah. So if you want to maximize returns, I tell people, I was like, go buy a Bitcoin or something because I'm just not your guy. So I love how you went through that explanation and give us a little bit of context now. And in terms of responsibilities, I know you guys didn't have a lot of definitions now, but how do you guys split the work now? And is that because of you recognizing what your strengths are?
Absolutely, yes. So I have recognized my strengths, and my strength probably lies in doing more creative things or going after new opportunities and putting a structure to those new opportunities, trying to bring them in and see if it's a good fit for our current model. And then my partner is always, and we still don't have roles and responsibilities defined, but we kind of have a rough split now because our business kind of grew from just buy and hold into buy and hold, fix and flips, sub two to wraps, sub two to rent. So we have all these different categories. So we just have a rough split for now is one is rentals and one is notes. So Prakash manages a lot of stuff around notes and I manage everything around rentals. I do love like rehabs and stuff. So I automatically gravitate towards taking care of flips and stuff. Whereas he will look at properties that need maybe, I mean, he will take on some workload from my plate whenever he is available, but that's not his main responsibility. Let's just say that. So for now, rentals and wraps is our rough split. And then we also have a lending business. I'm more focused on branding and building the foundation, and he's more focused on marketing and building funnel at the moment. But again, it's going to change because lending is a new thing for us. We are back to like this baby stage in the business in this lending thing. So we have a very rough split and it will probably change over time. But in our core business, both of us focus on building, like bringing opportunities together, because I think bringing opportunities is where our both of us like that and our strength lies. And we are trying to build a team to offload everything else that we do to our team at this time. So even though I look after rentals and everything, I'm taking more of a monitoring role, and I have already built a team, and he's also focused on notes, but he's taking a monitoring role in that department. That's how we are currently split.
Oh, that's interesting. That's really cool that you guys split up between wraps and rentals and lending business. I really enjoy that you guys also focus on what gives you guys most energy, which is creative deal structuring and finding all these opportunities. That's really cool, man. That's a really great structure. I really love hearing about that. For the audience listening today, right, they're probably wondering, okay, Chai, Prakash, you guys have been doing this thing for a while. What does your portfolio look like today, and how do you guys still acquire properties today?
After Pace asked us to do this underwriting Zoom for his students, I mean, the opportunities just come from anywhere these days. So I have this analogy that I use called doors. Okay. When I was wholesaling, I had only one door where the properties were coming in, or rather opportunities were coming in. So now this opportunity comes in. Now I'm under pressure to maximize every opportunity because I only have 10 opportunities this month. Whereas when I started buying from other wholesalers, then the second door opened. Now I have my own marketing and I have wholesalers sending me properties. But now teaching students or doing like teaching underwriting to students opened up a huge door. So there is tons of opportunities coming in from that door, and they come in different forms. So when they come in, what can I do with that opportunity is another thing, because there are different opportunities. So we specialized in wraps during 2022 and 3. So that's another door that opened. And now we have started lending. So lending is bringing in opportunities that we can literally handhold people to their success. And in doing that, we can leverage all other doors to our advantage. So what that means is we just lent on 2 houses in Austin to, I mean, you know this guy probably, LaMichael Curry. So LaMichael has been trying to flip his own properties, but he cannot do that because he's not able to find funding. He's worried that he doesn't have experience. He hasn't tried to raise money for gap funding, all kinds of issues. So when we sat down, I'm like, okay, I know LaMichael. LaMichael's a great guy. I mean, he's a great leader. He has the right mindset. He has the same passion, same wisdom, just like I said. So even though he's not, I don't know if he will be my long-term partner, but one thing that is different in partnership compared to a marriage is while you have one partnership, you can keep dating other people to see if they are a good fit to be added to your existing partnership, or even have another partnership if you wanted. So we want to add LaMichael to our regular partnership. Again, we've talked about it. I'm not saying we want to or we don't want to, but he has these 2 properties. He's about to wholesale them for like $15,000 profit each. But when you run the numbers, if we flipped it, we could make $70,000 on each property. So even if he is a third partner, he's still going to make more money, and all the experience that comes with it is bonus. So now this is another door that I call it, opened for us. The opportunities come in as a lending client, but then we are actually partnering up with him on the flip side of things as well. So we are going to put our expertise, our money, our efforts, our infrastructure into his deal, make him more money, make us more money, and also make our lending company money and have a long-term client with it.
And I love that approach, man, because now you're making a
It's a
win-win-win
very
solution for
organic
everybody.
thing that actually helps everybody across the board. I like it like that. So when you ask me about opportunities, I can't pinpoint one thing without explaining how these doors work for my company. So at the end of the day, bottom line is bottom line, right?
Can I ask you a little bit deeper then? Because you mentioned underwriting, and I love that because every single day for the past 195 days, I've been going live, analyzing the deal live every single day, teaching people. And I tell people all the time, this is a skill you have to develop somehow, or someone on your team needs it, because how are you going to spot a deal if it comes across your table and slaps you across the face? Like, can you even recognize what a deal even looks like? So could you give an example of how underwriting deals has given you deal flow? Just give us one example. Doesn't have to be all of them. Just give us one example, because I want to make it a little bit more real for people that this is worth their time and worth their investment for their time.
I love this question because this is what I've started telling people these days. When I joined Sub2, it was just another community. That's what I thought. I didn't know the kind of person Pace is. I mean, this amazing guy who can not sleep or do anything else in life for 4 years straight and deliver so much freaking value. I didn't know him for that. So I was just approaching Sub2 as any other community initially. And I was like, man, all these people are networking great all the time. And I'm taking their phone calls and helping them one by one, because people will sometimes bring you just an address. Hey, I think I have a lead. What is it? 123 Main Street. I was like, okay. And what's next? No, I don't know. I have to find the seller's phone number, but I think it's a good deal. I'm like, how do you think it's a good deal without even knowing the seller's phone number, how much they want for it, what it looks like? So people are that naive. Like when they are starting out, they just see some property in their neighborhood and they have heard from someone, okay, if the grass is tall, it's a good deal. Things don't work like that, right? I mean, underwriting is a very deeper topic. I mean, there are full-time jobs people have as an underwriter as part of big investment firms. So when I saw that, I went to Pace and, hey, can I teach underwriting to students on a bigger scale? Because I don't think people understand that, because his audience is different. He's helping newbies. It's a great thing. I mean, no doubt about that. So when I started teaching people, I realized how naive people are. Literally, I would open a spreadsheet on a computer and put purchase price 100,000, rehab 20,000, closing cost 10,000, market value 200,000. Your profit is 70,000. And people are like, wow. I was like, you didn't do that? How are you doing these deals? So fun story is people have something and they think they're going to join this community and then get all the help, which is fine. I mean, everybody has their different expectations. So people would bring, like when they started learning about our call, they're like, okay, this is what I needed. So instead of helping one by one, I started doing this to hundreds of people at a time. And people would bring a deal they thought is a decent deal, or they thought maybe it's not going to work. And then we change it in a way where it works. Now, obviously, they want to work with us because we only told them this is a good deal. Now they have to go home, figure out where they get the money from, how to flip it, who the contractor is going to be. So because underwriting is only step number one, there is 1,000 more steps after that. So they have to figure out. But then we have figured those out already. These deals, I mean, they bring it to us as an opportunity. Hey, will you partner up with me on this? And then we get into discussions. So it has happened many times. I mean, some of the best deals I got was because of this call. And it sometimes did not happen on the call, but it always happened maybe at a later stage where someone heard about our call and called me and they are like, okay, what do you think about this deal? And I'm like, oh, I think it's a great deal. If you can get it at this number, I think even I'll make you an offer. And he's like, okay. The next day, okay, I got it at that number. Let's go. So many
Yes.
opportunities. And I didn't know that was possible.
Man, Chad, I love what you talked about underwriting because I've always told people when you provide value first and you help others without any expectation of return, somehow you build a lot of trust, a lot of goodwill with people, and then you just get access to deals that you never thought was even possible. You get access to capital that you never thought was possible. So I absolutely love that story. And you are a great example of why I tell people to learn how to underwrite. And frankly, I just tell you, you could just copy my homework. Just do the same deal I analyzed today and put it on your own YouTube channel. Take credit for it because you're still being helpful. Now, I want to transition now this conversation into Section 8. And I know you have a little Section 8 portfolio. So maybe can you tell us about a deal or a portfolio? I think you were telling me you were selling a deal. Tell us about a little bit about the deal, the whole 9 yards from purchase price, rehab, cash flow, how long it took to rehab, and some expenses that was associated with the deal, and what did it finally sell for?
Oh, absolutely. Section 8 can be a pretty long conversation and the process, how you go through things. And I don't want to make it sound like a very easy thing to do all of a sudden. However, it is definitely worth exploring. I mean, when I first started this business, things were different, like 2015, 2016 cash flows. I mean, we used to buy properties for 100 grand and they would rent for maybe 13, 1400. So for that kind of numbers, $100,000 purchase price, $1,300 in rent, we call that a 1.3 ratio. 1.3 ratio is great. And today, finding properties with that ratio is very hard. That's one thing. Second, like insurance, taxes, everything's gone up. So when we approached COVID and we started hearing about all these crazy stories that tenants don't have to pay, we can't evict them, we got worried. And that's when I knew this guy, Chris Hopper, in our local community who held 60 plus Section 8 rentals. So I started calling him up and, hey, how do I do this? And how do I qualify for Section 8? And that is the first question I had. And I always get asked. So before we get into anything, I want to touch on this one question. How do I qualify for Section 8? The answer is you don't. You don't qualify for Section 8. People just assume that, okay, now they have to make some sort of application so they can accept Section 8 landlords. You don't. The tenants are qualified for Section 8, not the landlord. If I have to say this, I'll say this with 99% confidence that 100% of the properties in America are already qualified for Section 8. What that means is the property does not need qualification for the program. The tenant does. All you have to do is be ready to accept the tenant and the risks and rewards that come with it. But when you accept the tenant, now you have to go through this whole 9 to qualify your property in order to receive the rent. And what I mean by qualify is really you just have to go through the process of the application, setting the correct amount of rent, and then inspection of the property. So those are really the 3 steps. The simple process, the way it goes is you list your property on a website called affordablehousing.com. And that is the only website in the nation you need to use. And the website also has a way to list it for free if you're someone who is not able to buy the premium account or whatever. So affordablehousing.com is the only website that is associated directly with the Section 8 authority, or rather HUD stands for Housing and Urban Development, which is a department of government that controls and monitors Section 8 program. After you list it, you're going to get 2 or 3 things on that website. If you have a premium account, you're going to get something called rent estimator. So when you have the rent estimator, you can actually plug in the address for the property you have, and it will tell you what the going rent is for Section 8 in that area. Because when you have a property in certain area that pays $2,300 monthly rent, that doesn't mean Section 8 is going to pay you say $2,300 by default. They will check the comps, which is comparable rentals in that area, but you may be losing out on the upside that Section 8 provides. one, or Section 8 has qualified that area for lower rent, and how they qualify is a topic for another time. But once you go on that website will tell you maybe you need to list this property for 2,500, not 2,300, because some areas actually pay more than market value. For example, in Houston, we have a small city called Spring, Texas. In that area, Section 8 pays almost 30% over market. It's very popular for Section 8. Actually, that portfolio we purchased is in that area, and I'll get into that shortly. So once you list your property, you start receiving incoming applications. If you have a free account, if you have a premium account, you can actually look for people and reach out to them. On the website, we'll share the phone number. So you get a little bit more flexibility by having a premium account, and you get this rent estimator and all these things. But regardless, when you find a tenant, they will go see the house. Once they like it, you can actually request their paperwork, fill out the paperwork, and submit it to Section 8 authority, along with your banking, your LLC or entity information. One thing you have to remember is you cannot collect a security deposit from a Section 8 tenant before your property has passed inspection. As a good landlord, you may object to that, which I always do. I always try to collect security deposit in spite of not going through inspection. You could get in trouble for that from Section 8 authorities. And I have had this discussion with Section 8 authorities. But there is a way around to that is you just don't call it a security deposit. You can tell the tenant that we are going to collect administrative fees from you, and it can be $100 or it can be full 1 month's rent, depending on what you're able to collect. There is no limitation on that. I mean, that's what I've been told. So we try to collect the entire security deposit as administrative fee and then just apply it to security deposit upon inspection, or we collect a minimum of $250 and then basically take the property off the market. Because Section 8 inspections, the way they go is very tricky process. And when I say tricky, depending on the area you are in, Section 8 authorities differ in terms of the processing times, the people, the responsiveness, all kinds of things. If you come to Houston, you're going to hate Section 8 for first few months. I guarantee you, because it's like a black box. There is an email address that you can communicate to. They do give you a phone number, but nobody ever picks up on that phone number. So as you start learning these things, you kind of go through and ask yourself, hey, is this even worth it? And I guarantee you it is. I wish I had someone teaching Section 8 when I first started, but now there is few people teaching Section 8, and you guys definitely go check out Kent's podcast. He has some amazing information on that. But when you go through that process of qualifying the tenant and submitting the application, now the waiting game starts, because you have already taken property off the market. You don't have a security deposit, and now you're waiting for the black box to respond. So that can be very painful, and that is the tricky part. So to mitigate that risk, because what can happen is that tenant can now go and look for another property, and if they find a better property, they may just call you to cancel the application, and you lose a lot of time on the market. So by having that administrative fee, you are actually going to lock them in that deal legally or officially, whatever you call it, because you're officially not allowed to collect security deposit. But once they respond, now what they are going to do is they are going to give you, I think, a response. Okay, the paperwork looks good, or there are some problems you need to fix, whatever it is. Then once that happens, you're going to get a date for inspection. That is when you know for sure things are progressing. So inspection is probably the most critical part of Section 8 process overall, because affordable housing, getting a tenant, filling out a paperwork, it's all child's play. Inspection is not. And when I say they are coming to inspect your property, they actually mean business. They actually are going to look at everything in detail. Again, they are not looking for a fancy property with quartz countertops and vaulted ceilings. They're not looking for none of that. When they are coming to inspect your property, they're actually coming to look at the functionality of everything you're providing. For example, if you have a dishwasher, it better work. Otherwise, take it out. Don't provide one. Put that in the application. I don't provide dishwasher. It's okay. Because the more things you provide, the more things need to work and the more things are going to have problem in the future. It's very simple. So keep it simple if you can. They are very particular about all the electrical and plumbing of the house. Wherever there is wet areas, there should be a GFCI outlet. Wherever you have plumbing connections going into the wall, there cannot be a hole around that plumbing connection. Even if there is a small gap, needs to be filled with a foam. Or if you walk from outside, none of the windows can have these burglar bars, because if the windows are there, those windows act as a fire exit for most houses, at least in Texas. Those fire exits cannot be blocked. If there is burglar bars, those burglar bars are supposed to have quick release open mechanism, which can become costly to install. It's easier to remove burglar bars. So there is a lot of things that are related to the functionality and safety of the client and functionality of the house. That's what they're really coming to inspect. So if your cabinets are older, I mean, if you have some scratches like on the floor here and there, I mean, they're not going to care about that. But if you have a tile in the house and one of the tile is completely broken, it can break and pierce someone. And remember one thing, when you're talking about Section 8, you are dealing with people who are going through something in their life. And unfortunately, majority of the tenants we see in Texas happen to be single moms. So you are dealing with a lot of kids in that situation. So no matter what Section 8 dictates in terms of process, you as a human being should worry about it, because you're actually giving the house to single mom with bunch of kids. The single mom already has other challenges in life, which can become your challenges if you don't deliver on your part. So as a human, as a person really trying to make a difference in the world, you should fix your houses and keep them in a good shape. So every time there is a Section 8 inspection, it kind of forces us to go see the house, check everything. So it's a good thing, in my opinion. A lot of people hate that part of Section 8 process, which I understand it from investors' standpoint as well. But it also gives me a chance to look at my houses for deferred maintenance and other things. I kind of like to go through that process. So what we have done in our business to address this whole process is we have project managers, property managers that are on site. I mean, first of all, we go through the rehab, and at the end of rehab, we do the inspection of the property as if we are going to rent it to Section 8. We don't always rent it to Section 8, but when we go through the inspection from Section 8 standpoint, we know everything's going to be fine. So we will do that inspection, close the rehab, and then when the inspection is scheduled, let's say we do go through the Section 8 tenant, when inspection is scheduled, we will do a pre-inspection for the main inspection. And even after doing pre-inspection, some things do come up, because from inspector to inspector, their criticality of their eye changes. So they are going to come up with something that you missed. Just simple things like, oh, you don't have a deadbolt on the back door. So every door that exits the house has to have two locks. That's the rule. So something will come up. So make sure you do pre-inspection and you have a handyman on standby on the day of inspection. Try to schedule the inspection early in the day. That way you get time to send the handyman, fix couple little things, and try to pass it the same day. Can you do that with every inspector? Maybe, but you should have already done enough work so that on the day of inspection, it's less than 3 or 4 items that pop up. Because if it's more than 5 items, they will just stop the inspection and ask you to reschedule it. You have to make sure that inspection comes up with less than 5 items, and then you kind of ask for forgiveness. Hey, can I send my handyman today? Because all these inspectors are going around town inspecting whole bunch of properties, and they are going to go to their office around 5 or 6 p.m. and log every property. So by the time they reach their office, you should have finished the things and sent them pictures or videos as a proof. So that's the only way. But again, things don't always go in a straight line. Things do go wrong. So you have to reschedule it. Depending on Section 8 authority, they may give you 1 week to up to 2 weeks from that day. So you just lose more time in doing that.
Well, I love how you just gave a little masterclass for everybody that just walked into this podcast. And I hope everybody will rewind this section and just re-listen to it, especially if it's your first time, because we get those questions all the time. One was an inspection. How do you get qualified for Section 8? And we all know that these questions are probably just not being asked the right way. They might not just know what the questions to ask even. So
Yeah.
I completely agree with you, man. The inspections every inspector is going to be different. Just be as prepared as you can be. And it's our responsibility to provide safe, decent, sanitary housing. That's our responsibility. And that should be non-negotiable.
That's the one point I missed. Sanitary, clean, functioning, safe house. That's it. Nailed
That's
it.
right. Well, Chai, let's make it real for people. Tell us about a deal that you did, because I think the process made a lot of sense. What does it actually mean in terms of numbers to get a property to be, let's just call it Section 8 ready?
Yeah, so great question. So after hearing all these intimidating things like, okay, there is a black box to deal with, and then they will respond after 30 days and they will reschedule you for another 15 days. It can be scary for new landlords because they are going to have to wait and pay out of pocket their mortgage payment while Section 8 is getting ready or doing whatever. It's all worth it at the end. Once the Section 8 tenant goes into your house, they are not coming out for a long, long time. So that's the one thing that I think really makes this strategy worth it. Because from the data that I know, average Section 8 tenant will stay in your property for 9 years. That's what I've heard. I don't have that long of a data to give you my own data, but I can agree with that. A lot of people who have settled in the property, they are not going to go for a while until their kids grow up because they don't want to go through this hassle for sure. And those that are going to create a lot of trouble, and there will be trouble, I guarantee you. I'm not saying every tenant is going to cause you trouble, but some will. And that's what makes this business fun at the end of the day. If you don't want trouble, go invest in CDs and collect like 0.25% interest rate, right? So business is not just about profit. There is always going to be losses, and how you mitigate that is what's going to make you a better businessman overall. You have to give any strategy at least 3 to 5 years to play out. So if you try to list one house on Section 8 and get a tenant, and that tenant trashes your property, that's a very small data set compared to what I've gone through. And now about numbers, to answer your question. Let's say I'm going to give you an example based on Houston market or Texas markets that I operate in. Today in Texas, any property you buy with current interest rate at market value is almost always not going to cash flow because the interest rates are crazy high. The insurance is almost double, if not tripled, because I don't know if you're following this, but in Texas, a lot of insurance companies are exiting Texas, and there is a whole issue going on around that. And Texas taxes are crazier compared to rest of the US. Anyways, like our average tax rate is 2.7 to 2.9%. It's crazy to hear that, especially Californians or New Yorkers. Our prices are cheaper, but we pay same amount of tax as you guys. Having said that, no property is going to cash flow in today's date. So every investor that calls me and they want to buy a deal, I tell them, if you are not comfortable with Section 8, and I understand why, until you have 4 or 5 properties and you can hedge your bets. I mean, some people are not going to go for Section 8 on their first property. That's what I see. Should you do it? 100% you should. If you have a good W-2, you can support the mortgage payment in case something goes wrong. You should go with your first property as a Section 8. But if you are having trouble making ends meet, maybe go with a safer tenant. Again, there is no such thing as safer tenant, but I mean, for this discussion, let's call it non-Section 8 be as the safer option. So go with that, sure. But today it's not going to cash flow. So I tell this to all investors. If you buy a $250,000 property for $200,000 all in, which is 80%, for someone like you and me who is in this business every day, we could find 70% deals. But realistically, for new investors, they should target 80 to 85% all-in purchases. That's what I tell people who are buying real estate as an investment, not full-time gig. 80-85% becomes 200 to 210 for a $250,000 property. If you're lucky, you will probably get around $1,800 in rent on that property in Texas. And if you run your numbers, I think your mortgage payment is going to be equal or slightly higher than that. It's not going to cash flow until interest rates stabilize and or rents grow over time. But for that same property in certain areas of Houston, you could potentially get rent as high as 2400 using Section 8 as a strategy. And that rent is guaranteed. I mean, we didn't even talk about why Section 8 all this while. The most important reason for Section 8 really is when something like COVID happens, your rent is 100% guaranteed by government. That's why you actually deal with lower quality of tenants. It's no secret that all the Section 8 tenants are going to have some problems with credits or whatever. So you're not gonna be able to qualify them based on income, credit, and other things that you normally look for. So even if their credit score is great, they're probably not gonna have the income where you need them to be. And that is the only reason they are on Section 8. So overall, when I say lower quality, you're just not going to be able to qualify them with your normal criteria. So the only reason to take them, however, is because government is guaranteeing their rent. When you have a house that is averaging 250 on the market, you're able to get it for 200 to 210 all in with repairs. Your mortgage payment is going to be around 1800 to 1900 range in Texas. You just cannot operate a rental portfolio with 1800 rents in today's market. So today, Section 8 is actually coming in as a savior for many landlords. Someone who's starting out in real estate today, they have to consider Section 8 as a strategy. I mean, a lot of conversations I've had in the past in my career, Section 8 was always frowned upon. As I went through it myself, I'm like, people are good and bad everywhere. Section 8 tenants have had a difficult life, doesn't make them a bad people. When you look at statistical analysis of the quality of tenants, sure, I mean, someone who looks after their credit, someone who has a good job, they tend to be more responsible people. Maybe they will keep your properties in a good shape, maybe not. And I've had bad tenants that are non-Section 8, bad tenants that are all kinds of like races they come from. Section 8 people really use it as a true help for their family. So do not automatically judge Section 8 tenants. You can do a better job of qualification as well. And if you keep your properties in a good shape, you're going to attract good quality people even within Section 8 subset of tenants. Whether you take 1800 rent or 2300 rent is up to you. In today's market, I will take 2300 all day long. In fact, we just sold a portfolio in Spring, Texas to a few friends of ours. We got this portfolio for that range, like 200 or 210 somewhere there. And we were able to negotiate it down under 200 if I remember correctly. But the person who ran that portfolio did a fantastic job. All the plumbing is new. All houses have full tile floors. I mean, everything's been taken care of and all the Section 8 processes have been followed to the T. And all tenants are paying way above market rent. So the entire portfolio today cash flows a little over 10%, which is very rare. And we captured a bunch of equity in that process. And when you present something to your investors, if you're selling to other investors or buying with other investors, having Section 8 will really just add feather in your cap in terms of running your operation profitably.
And I love how you kind of just alleviated a lot of concerns from people and made them feel a little bit more safe, right? About the numbers, about the process, about the guarantee rent. And I love how you dispelled some of the stigmas right there, Chai. Now, Chai, contractors is sort of the thing that puts everybody in a fear mode where they're like, hey, what if I hire the wrong contract? What if I get screwed over? What if they walk off the job? What if they steal my money? So, Chai, let's just talk briefly about who do you use for plumbing, electrical, kitchen remodels, blah, 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 blah. But how also, after you tell us who you use, how did you know they were good people?
Everything you said, like contractors will run with money, contractors will stop working, they'll do a bad job. I'm so fortunate that all that has happened already in my life. So I'm so grateful to all those guys that did that to me. This is not even a joke. This is real, that once that happens, you're like over it. Otherwise, you're going to keep thinking for the rest of your life, oh, what if this contractor runs away with my money? Once that happens, you know that happens. And then you're going to have systems in place that you're going to implement for the rest of your life. So long story short, I have started joining this local group group that I was part of. It's a big networking group, just like Sub2 or Astro and all these groups. They have been around for a long time, this group. So they have these vendors that you can actually pick from for your projects. And that's what I did. I picked the two top general contractors they had, and I went with the second best because the first one was very expensive. And after I saw the performance of the big box contractors, I'm like, they are not taking any responsibility for anything, because why would they? It's my project. I'm the one responsible. They want me to feel the heat, right? Not them. So I went through like couple of maybe 30, 40 grand rehabs, and I realized that underneath all, they are still using subcontractors. So I'm like, why not I use subcontractors instead of big box contractors? Because I mean, back when I first started, the things were not as crazy. The cost was still pretty much under control. But now, especially in Texas market, the taxes have gone through the roof. Insurance is out of control because insurance companies are fleeing Texas right now for whatever reason. I hope that stops. So the insurances have doubled, if not tripled. So with that in mind, I'm so glad that I learned to manage contractors early on. If I was still using big box contractors, I would be out of business. And everybody here listening here, and including yourself, I'm sure every one of you have a different model. I'm not saying using big box contractors is the wrong thing at all, but some people just buy at the right price and then spend money on the upside. I mean, on the things they do to the house, versus some people don't have time to buy it, right? They buy from wholesalers, they buy from other big box wholesalers and then improvise it later. So I'm one of those guys who like to buy it right and improvise it. That's how you hit it out of the park. That's the goal, at least. I come from mathematics background. I always took a lot of interest in mathematics, and my most favorite topic is optimization. So everything I do in life, I just like to optimize it and literally squeeze every drop of like value out of that one thing. Again, I have become a different person now. I've changed as a businessman. I don't try to do that anymore. I like to cast a wider net. But going back to contractors, what I would say is, if you feel passionate about managing contractors, and you should, as a real estate investor, that does multiple things. One is, of course, it develops you as an investor, because now you know exactly what they're doing. You will know the prices of all the materials they use. How much does the paint cost? How much does the baseboard cost? How much does the sheetrock cost? I mean, all these little things you will start to know if you start managing people actively, versus if you have a general contractor, you're going to look at their price and a couple other general contractors' price and then, okay, go with this one. So in my opinion, managing contractors achieves multiple things. It develops you as a businessman, as a real estate investor, and it impacts a lot. Managing crews versus managing a general contractor is night and day. And the cost can be as low as almost 50% of paying a general contractor, because a general contractor is there doing their business. So they are going to upcharge it. And most important thing in America is cost of humans. So cost of materials is really, really low compared to how much general contractors are going to charge you to actually get it done. Just like a rule of thumb is, if material costs $100, you should be paying $100 in the cost of labor. But if you go with general contractor, you are going to pay twice as much, if not 3 times in cost of labor. So that's just a rule of thumb if everyone should keep in mind. And one more thing I'll just say to end this. When you have contractors, you have your crews. There is skill in all of that. But I'm saying there is a crew that does like MEP. MEP stands for mechanicals, electrical, and plumbing. So for those 3 things, all your systems are covered by special skilled people, which is, of course, plumber, HVAC guy, and the electrician. But besides those 3 big things and a couple more like foundation and roof, you have one crew that does the rest, pretty much the rest. I mean, there will be some special situations where if you need framing done or whatever, you are going to need like a special crew for that. But you need to build a relationship with maybe 2-3 different crews of every trade, small crews, and then MEPs. So I have in my business, I have a list of approved vendors that I have personally worked with in my time. Now my team does that. I run a very tight shop where we manage cost by going to these people, and we've worked with them for years now. So our cost is pretty much stabilized. With COVID and all, prices went up. So we understand all that. But it gets a lot easier over time. Initially, there is going to be contractors running with your money. I mean, I've had contractors run away with 50 grand. So that happens. But again, when the contractor ran away with 50 grand, in that year, I had decided to find the bottom of the market. I was trying to find how cheap can I get a paint job done. So I went from literally paying $6,000 to $1,200. And that's when I realized 1,200 is going to compromise the quality. I mean, I don't even want to go with that guy anymore. So I know the $3,000 in Texas is going to be where I can live with the quality. Below 3,000, the quality is going to get compromised. So that year, I found the bottom and I found my like happy medium. So even if I lost 50 grand with that one guy, I saved like hundreds of thousands overall. So I'm happy with that experiment.
Wow. I got to stop you there because I want people to really catch the value. Not only did Chai just share with you the experiments that he went through so that you guys can skip the pain of trying to figure all of this out on your own, he is going to give you guys contractors that have not stolen $50,000 from him. So you guys can avoid some of those folks. And he has also given you some rules of thumb. So you understand like, hey, if I'm paying $100 for materials, am I supposed to pay 2x or 3x or equal to the cost of labor? Like these are great rules of thumb that you guys have to keep in mind because look, every market's going to be different, but you have to figure out what those rules of thumbs are and quickly come up with those ranges of, hey, is $1,200 for a paint job too low? Is $6,000 for a paint job too high? And that's those items that you really have to figure out for your own market. So Chai, let's give the audience a little bit some nuggets, right? Who are you using for MEPs? Some like just name one or two people that you're using for plumbing, electrical, or mechanicals.
In my market in Houston, there is a guy, Jimmy Buckhalter is an electrician, older gentleman. His company name is Save a Buck Electric. And my wife happened to find him because I was challenging her that the electrician that came to our house was charging way too much. So she found her accidentally, but then I realized a lot of investors use him. So with Jimmy, I have a text messaging relationship. I've never seen Jimmy after that one time that he visited my house, like, hey, Jimmy, this is the address. He will go send an invoice. He will never be late on my job and I will never question his price. That's the relationship I have with Jimmy. Leo is my plumber. He's not a big box plumber for people to know, but if anybody wants to know, get in touch with me. I'll connect you guys with Leo. Leo is a plumber who started out really small, so he values volume business. He works with a lot of builders now to where he charges market prices, but he works with me and respects my pricing. There is another guy, Oswaldo. Oswaldo is a very popular guy among investors in Houston area, and Oswaldo is a very smart guy. Like, you better know a plumber who is really creative in their work because they can save you a lot of money. Because some plumber can just look at a leak or look at something and say, oh, you have to change this pipe. I mean, I'm not talking so much about over the ground plumbing. I'm talking about underground plumbing. That's when you really lose a lot of money. So Oswaldo is a guy who can save that. And for AC, I have a couple people, Donald Let's Mechanical LLC or something. Yeah, Donald is a popular guy. And then one of my go-to guys is Daniel Wen. Daniel is been working with me for years, Asian guy, and him and his crew had language challenges, but that's kind of how we mitigated those. Actually, I had someone who spoke Vietnamese with me. So that kind of worked out for a while. And then since then, Daniel and I also understand each other much better. So we've been working for a long time. And if you're in Houston area, for contractors, there are 3 big shops or the 3 companies that you can go to. These are general contractors, not your general crews. All-Star Contractors, Blue Star Contractors, and there used to be one called Fast Track Remodel by Elijah Randall. Elijah Randall has a new company now, but these 3 are amazing guys. Anybody can reach out to them.
Wow. Talk about amazing value, guys. Like Chai just gave you guys a cheat sheet and also a freaking expedited fast track to becoming a successful real estate investor. He just showed you all the trials and tribulations that he has gone through to even come to and arrive at these folks. So if you guys want to show some love, like make sure you guys leave some comment on the YouTube videos to thank Chai for sharing these resources, because these are truly the difference maker between a successful real estate investor and a not successful real estate investor. It all comes down to execution risk and whether or not you have the team in place so that you can actually execute on the plan, because you can put whatever number you want. on a spreadsheet. But if you don't have the team to make it happen, it's not going to happen.
Let me add one thing there, Kent, real quick. In Houston market, okay, of all, again, lot of immigrants in this market. So you got to be a little bit careful because everybody claims that they can build a house because they have worked on a construction site. So everybody claims to be a builder, which they are not. Whenever people start flexing and start saying, hey, I can build a house, I can do everything, that's not a good sign. And that's a very common thing. And then people fall for it every day. That's why it works for them. So stay away from people saying, I can do everything. Focus on people that are actually specializing in one trade. And one very, very important thing is when you negotiate pricing, if you start going my route of actually running your own crews, I have made the mistake of trying to negotiate price based on daily labor rate. Because like I said, I'm a numbers guy. Okay, I want to pay $200 a day, which is an average number. You can go lower than that, but quality is going to be compromised. 200 to 250 is what most laborers get paid. But when you tell them that, one or two things are going to happen, which either scenario you don't want. One is when they agree to that, they are going to milk every minute of it and then they are going to be very slow in their work. And second scenario is they don't like that because they feel like now you're treating them as a laborer and they are also on a entrepreneur path. If you see it or not, they want to grow in their life and become a bigger contractor. So they don't want to be in a situation where they want to work by the day. So give them a chance. Or if someone says they can do it, then give them a chance of giving you a price. And you, in the back of your mind, run the numbers, ask the questions like, hey, okay, you're going to charge me $3,000 to paint this house. How long are you going to take? 5 days. How many people are you going to have? 3 people. That's your answer. You know already how much they are charging you by the day. So keep that math in the back of your head. Don't tell them that math. As long as the math adds up, award the job. Do not try to belittle them or challenge them to work by the day. It's going to really blow up on you.
Yeah, Chai, I love your advice on relationship management with people because it's always important and people can tell when you're looking out for them and you're trying to help them grow their business, just like what you're doing right now, just by sharing some of these contractors' names. A lot of investors with a scarcity mindset would try to keep all these resources to themselves. Here you are showing the true go-giver, the true abundance mindset. And I really, really commend you on that, Chad. This is why I love bringing you onto the podcast and promoting you and your business. And man, Chad, I made this a good time to kind of transition because I really want to tie this entire podcast together. Are you able to share one or two deals? Let's just kind of quickly go over succinctly. What was the purchase price, rehab, how long did it take, what it cost for, what it rented for, what it exited for? Because I think the audience really wants to say, okay, Chai, you have taught us so much. Let's bring it home. Let's talk about a deal that you did so that I can really kind of materialize and learn everything and kind of wrap everything together that we learned from you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to talk about a deal related to affordable housing. So recently we bought a package of 8 houses, 8 out of 40 houses, and this seller is releasing small packages at a time to maximize what they can get for it, which I don't blame them. So the first package of 8 houses, we bid on it. It's worth around 2.1 million in market. That's what we thought. It ended up appraising for 1.9 million, but we ran our numbers based on, I think, 2 million at the time. And we knew like the conservative scenario was 1.9, which we were okay with. We purchased that package for around 1.67 million. We did park that package in like one of our funds. So we work with some of our close friends and family where we pool money together and buy houses together, and our team manages and executes the whole thing, and they just put their money in it. So at 1.67, I mean, that's not me typically paying even that high, honestly. It's still a good deal for a lot of people, including our fund, but I like to be at 70% minus repairs. But this particular package, the reason we picked is because in today's market, compared to how I started over the years, things were different, costs were different, taxes were low, insurance was low, contractors were costing low. So now where we are with the higher interest rate in Texas market, nothing cash flows. No matter what you buy, at what price you buy, if you once you refinance it at 7.5% interest rate, 8% interest rate, nothing's going to cash flow. because traditional tenants pay market rent. So that's the beauty of affordable housing. And that's what we've been practicing. And that's the one strategy we've employed in our business over the years. That's what's made us successful. So this package comes pre-packaged with tenants. I mean, they have already maximized the rents. Literally, I mean, if the house has a study room, they have converted to an extra bedroom to make it a 4-bedroom and put a 4-bedroom voucher tenant in the house. Instead of getting 1,800 market rent, now they're getting 2,500 from housing. So that kind of scenario. So this is an excellent package. I had to do zero rehab for this. So 1.67, it came with rehab, came with tenants already there. It's already paying almost 20-25% above market rents. And the seller who is selling is a contractor themselves. So they provided a full scope of work, what they did to the house. We verified each and everything. There is like brand new roofs, all tile floor. And I still don't do tile floors in my houses. But now after looking at this package, I have realized the importance of tile with Section 8 tenants. It's another topic, what type of rehab you need, because again, you're dealing with different type of clientele. So they have tile floors, brand new plumbing, because if you haven't heard lately, Texas freezes over every year and we have problems. So we need a special plumbing, which is the most common plumbing now, which is FKA. They have PEX in every house. There is nothing you need to do in these. They have put 50-60 grand in each house over the years and maintaining this portfolio amazingly. So at 1.67, this package, the gross rents we are collecting monthly is around 18,500. So that's little over 1%, which is great because at 1%, you do not cash flow. So literally the cash flow on this package is going to come out around 2,000 to 2,500 per month. And we are going to be all in out of pocket around 260, 270. For $260,000 out of pocket, the cash flow is around 2,500 per month, which comes out to be closer to like 28, 29,000 a year. It's not exactly 2,500 per month. So we are talking about 270,000 investment, which is about 10% cash on cash return clear. And if people here don't know what cash on cash return is, that's exactly what you take home compared to what you put into it. And there is 4 more streams of income in real estate, including principal pay down, depreciation, appreciation, and equity capture. Those are bonus. This is only what you take home, and that's 10%, which is phenomenal because nothing's cash flowing even 1% these days. So that's why this portfolio was attractive. So since we spoke last time, we ended up helping the same seller. Funny thing is, after she sold us her first portfolio, she quickly realized how amazing her portfolio is. And now she started demanding higher prices. And we already overpaid for that portfolio because of the way it is. Again, not overpaid. She delivered amazing value. But we are also a lending company and she knows that. So now it's like when you do the right thing in the market, the opportunities just present themselves. So it's a great example that she came to us. I mean, I know you don't want to pay more than certain amount and I respect that. But hey, we have these other buyers that are paying us more. Would you be a lender for them? Because I mean, I also own a lending company and I was like, I would love to. I mean, I don't have to buy every package in the market. I'll run out of all my money. So she's allowing us to be a lender on all those packages. And I can stand by those packages all day long. There is still a couple more packages. If anyone listening to this listens to it within the next week or so, connect with me. I have few more packages from the same seller.
Ooh, I got to talk to Chai
Amazing.
about these packages. That's what's
Yes.
going on. Chai, quick questions on the deal. What market was this deal in these packages?
This is in Houston market. And
Okay.
if you go to Houston housing payment standards, you are going to see all these packages that they're dropping. Most of them come from the top tier zip codes where the housing already pays anywhere between 19 to 31% above market. And on top of that, they have maximized the floor plan and they're getting more rent. So top tier zip codes and maximizing the potential of the property. That's how they are getting so much higher rent.
Got it. And you still have the portfolio of 8 properties?
Yeah, we have the 8. Since then, we have lent on 2 more portfolios, like 8 and 4. And now I think they are asking us if we know someone who wants a portfolio of 5 and then 7 more coming. I don't know why the numbers are like that, but I think they are trying to hit certain dollar value. So the number of houses keep changing.
Got it. And are you serving as a bridge lender or are you sort of the
Yes.
permanent lender for 30 years? What does that look
No.
like for you?
So I am a bridge lender. I'm a private money lender in Houston. I don't like to call ourselves hard money lender because we are asset based lender only. We'll work with you and we guarantee almost 48-hour lending if you have something that's time sensitive. So we work in specific markets and that we know and something we are going to buy. We don't lend on houses that are million. I mean, we will depending on the borrower, but we typically lend on something that we don't mind taking it back from the borrower.
Yeah. And this is why you and your partners bring such a unique value proposition to the market. Not only do you guys know affordable housing in Section 8, but now you guys are able to provide lending and you guys already had experience with the seller. That makes you guys the ideal lenders for these scenarios. And I think that's just incredible to see and witness the evolution of your investment journey from having contractors steal money from you to now becoming a lender, man. Dude, I'm just so excited for you and what's about to come for you and your business. This has been a true blessing to have you on this podcast, Chai. And maybe this is a good time. Like, this is a question I ask almost every single investor that's come onto this podcast. And Chai, why do you think affordable housing, particularly the lack of supply of affordable housing, is so hard to solve for?
I do read about affordable housing for my, of course, my knowledge. And I feel like I have mixed opinion here. One is I think there is lack of supply because very few investors are taking advantage of this. That's one brutal truth. But again, if they did take advantage of affordable housing, there will be lack of supply for normal people. So the lack of supply is there. Nobody can deny that. And you guys are doing amazing work for that. We are only working in a very small part of affordable housing, which is Section 8 program. But there are many other programs where the government is awarding grants to build bigger apartment complexes that are affordable housing oriented or maybe partial affordable housing. And in that scenario, I think the government is facing problems because the cost is constantly going up and the whole situation with COVID is not helping at all. I think 24% rent increases or something. That was the number in the last 3 years. I mean, they keep adding more money to this program and it's just never ending. Now, on top of all that, I think their fear is that they're going to run into a lot of fraud situations also. So controlling that money is also a big challenge for them because when government has floodgates open, guess what happens? Like bad people start taking advantage of this and that's what creates a bad rep for everybody. So unfortunately, that's been the challenge with the government. So I feel like lack of supply can be mitigated with multiple things. If more investors come on board and take advantage of this, yes, I agree. It is hard to manage the clientele that comes with it, maybe at some times, but it is also rewarding. And I tell everybody that, okay, when you look at affordable housing or Section 8 for that matter, it looks like a mountain. There is so much to learn. But when you're on the other side of the mountain, guess what? Nobody's there. You're the only one. So try to take advantage of this as much as you can. You can get 20 to 30% more in rent all day long, and the tenants end up staying for a lot longer than a usual tenant. Even if worst case scenario, after 5-7 years, you have to do the whole rehab all over again, you have made all that money in those 7-8 years. I've been told average tenant lives in the property for about 8 to 9 years in Section 8 type of programs. If the house is in a good shape, if you don't do anything to the house, they're going to leave, obviously. But yeah, I think it can be mitigated. Let's all work together.
Well, Chai, you have done an incredible job today, just being so open, sharing all your resources and your knowledge with everybody. And first and foremost, I just want to thank you again for what you do. Seriously, Chai, without people
Absolutely,
like you,
man.
I would have never had the home I grew up in. So for that, I sincerely thank you. I am so grateful that there are people like you in this world. And it gives me a little bit more hope that my kids are growing up in the right world with someone like you in it. So
thank you,
for
man.
that,
Thank you. And thank you for running this podcast. Please go watch Kent's other episodes. Amazing value. Bringing all these affordable housing investors together through this podcast is a great value in its own. Like, I got so many nuggets from your podcast. Thank you for doing this, man.
Man, I appreciate you so much. So Chai, if people want to reach out to you, learn more about your businesses and even your lending businesses, how can they get in touch with you and where can they find out more information about you?
So we focus on two things: buying properties and lending on other people's properties. So my phone number is 713-376-1437. Or you can reach me at CHAI at stepup-capital.com.
All right, everybody. Make sure you guys reach out to Chai and blow up his phone. Hopefully, you don't blow up his phone. Only blow up his phone if you got some value to provide, or you got a deal for him. But definitely reach out to him on his email. And Chai, do you want people to follow you on Instagram too?
Absolutely. Instagram is the best place to send me a DM. I try to respond to everything on Instagram. Facebook sometimes falls behind. But my
Nice.
Instagram handle is my first name, Chaitanya, CHAI, T as in Tom, ANYA, letter P as in Paul, number 2. And that's my Insta handle.
All right, guys. Please show this guy some love. Please shoot him a follow on Instagram. And Chai, I can't wait to have you back on maybe in 6 to 12 months and just continue talking about your journey, the growth of your business. I can't wait to have you back on, man. Continue talking.
Thank you so much,
your
man.
Business.
Peace.
All right. Have a good one, everybody. And we are out.